Welcome to the Collected Gamers Podcast. Today is Sunday, July 23rd. This is episode 198. I'm Tony.
I'm Dennis, and we are back at it. I don't know if this is going to be a particularly long episode, but I do think it'll be an interesting one, if for no other reason than there's been a lot of news going on in terms of a big pinball announcement, and of course I know there's a lot of Microsoft Activision updates that have happened.
I know.
But before we get into that, Tony, last couple of weeks, anything worth reporting?
Not really. I've been playing more Diablo 4. I've been playing more.
I heard they were going to nerf all the classes, and then they're like, oops.
Yeah, I've been playing a sorceress, and after the big nerfs came in, there was a considerable change in my time to kill. It kind of hurt, and that class was already like the weakest class in the game. So,
okay,
it just made it worse. So, I have beaten the game. I have not since the new season launched. I've not started the new season yet because I downloaded some updated mods for BattleTech, and I've been playing BattleTech.
Okay.
And reading. I've been doing a lot of reading, so that's about it.
Okay. Well, I have continued to work on. I'm not playing Gems of War anymore. That one's back in the back in cold storage. Yeah, back in cold storage for that one. I'm through Chapter 8 now on Puzzle Quest 3. However, there was a big Xbox summer sale of games, so I did pick up 3 new games. Yes, I got the remake of Capcom's Resident Evil 3. I really liked the Resident Evil 2 remake. I did not originally play, my first Resident Evil was Resident Evil 5.
Right.
And in fact, why I am in Xbox at all is because a friend of ours who we played World of Warcraft with wanted me to co-op with him Resident Evil 5. And he's like, you got to get a 360 so we can play this. And I'm like, I don't want to buy a console. I'm a PC gamer. He's like, you need to get it so we can play it. And so I was like, I was getting tired
of
Warcraft.
Peer pressure.
I was getting tired of Warcraft. So I got it. And that was my first introduction. And I have since gone back and played because they had a remaster of 6. So I've played 6, and then I've been playing the more recent ones. But I tried to do an older remake-y version of Code Veronica, and I couldn't. It was still the old look and everything, and I couldn't really get into it or get through it at the very least. And same for the first Resident Evil, but Resident Evil 2, when they totally remastered it, that was a lot of fun. So I've got 3, but I haven't started it yet. And then I got 2 other games. I got I Am Fish, which is think the Marble Madness, you're a fish in a bowl and you're trying to get to the water. So I've only played that one time, the day I downloaded it, because it was a quick, short download. And then another series of games I've never played, I got the Phoenix Wright trilogy. I'm learning that either Japanese law is very, very different than American law, or Phoenix Wright is taking some liberties with law, because there's a lot about the game that doesn't make any sense to me. And one of the things I struggle with a lot is there are scenarios, instances where I need to object and present something, and it's so obvious that I'm confused why no one else is just bringing it up. They'll be like, "What's going on? You need to present." And I've overthought it several times when it's something like, you'll hear the witness say I wasn't. They'll say something like they weren't actually there, and then you're like, objection, and the judge is like, why are you objecting? And it's like, but the witness just told everyone they weren't there, but you need to point out the evidence showing that they indeed aren't there, because they just said they weren't there, and that conflicts with the other thing that suggested they were there. And I'm like, but they just said they weren't there. They just told everyone. Why do I have to object at all? I don't understand. It doesn't work that way.
They should have said that, nonsense. And their lawyer should have dropped their head in shame.
It's weird. And then the weird Phoenix Wrighty stuff. One time I was like, objection, the autopsy. They were like, this person, I saw that they were stabbed, and then they staggered away, and then they fell over and died. And then I was like, objection, the autopsy report says they died instantly. And then the prosecutor's like, objection. It's like, we have an updated autopsy report that says they actually took a while to die. And I was like, where did this come from? What is this? And they're just like, you should have thought better, Phoenix. And I'm like, what? This is what law? Maybe that's how it is in Japan. I don't know.
Discovery. Have you heard of it?
Oh, there's a whole lot of the whole, they won't tell you or give you any of this. And I'm like, I'm not sure that's how that works. But apparently in the world of Phoenix Wright, we have to do all our own investigations, and we have to trick the police into giving us information and trick the prosecutor into giving us information. About the only thing I readily get are the inaccurate autopsy reports that then get updated during the course of my objection.
So Phoenix Wright is basically SVU.
It's just, yeah, I guess. I don't. And then other than that, I have a new pinball project in the garage, Gottlieb 1987 Victory. So the displays are currently not working, probably just a fuse, or more likely just an edge connector that needs to be reattached. But I haven't done much with that yet, other than some preliminary tests. So let's go into pinball, since I used that as my subtle as a chainsaw segue. We only have one pinball topic.
But first.
What but first?
What are you slipping out of the collection to put Victory in?
That remains to be seen. So the short answer would be my most likely item that I would sell would be Buck Rogers. Obviously, it's not of the same era, but the only game I have remotely near the era of Victory is Hoops, and Hoops isn't going. So Buck Rogers is the game I play the least. Though I do have a really nice, because I have like the BG Resto back glass that was gifted to me. So it's one of my better looking games. Mm-hmm. It's in better shape, like physically, than Sinbad, but Sinbad's it's just a more fun game.
Right.
So probably Buck Rogers, but I hedge on that because I need to put some more, while I played it on Pinball Arcade, I need to put some time on Victory to know that Victory should go in the lineup. It may just be a case that Victory
might just be a garage.
It stays in the garage for a while, and then I just sell it or something. Which incidentally, when the person brought the Victory, because of my ceiling height, they had a Walking Dead, so I gave them my Walking Dead topper. So now I'm topper free, as I should be.
Good.
Pure.
Excellent.
And clean.
Clean.
Yes.
This house is clean.
This house is clear. I can't do her voice. But Venom Pinball. Can I do Venom's voice?
I don't know. Can you?
It's isn't it Tony Todd voices Venom? I heard a rumor or report. I did not find confirmation. I didn't look very hard that he's voicing Venom in the new Stern game, but I've heard he's done Venom's voice in some other stuff, like video game stuff.
That'd be fine.
I remember because I saw it posted somewhere, and I saw the top reply I saw was my favorite Klingon. Which I thought, oh, that's a blast from the past. That's true. He's done several Klingons.
Yes, he has.
But I have a link in the show notes, which can be helpful to follow along. This is This Week in Pinball's link, because they do have a deep dive on Venom, which I found is just a useful way I like how they lay out the photos and the tiers and the information, and there's a good little set on the rules. So I'm also pointing that out so Tony can load it. While I didn't embed any of our photos in our OneNote, is why I'm mentioning that, because it makes the OneNote kind of clunky when I put a lot of photos in. So anyway, in terms of some basic background for the listeners that do not know yet, the teaser came out technically 2 weeks ago at this, but not full 2 weeks, but 2 weeks ago if we think about traditional week structure. And then Tuesday was when the game itself was revealed fully. In terms of the basic information, this is a Brian Eddy design game. He had most recently done Mandalorian. The rules, I've heard there are at least four people on rules. I don't know all of them. Dwight Sullivan is lead on rules. He was lead on Mandalorian's rules as well. Raymond Davidson, Dwight had confirmed on an interview that Raymond is doing rules. He most recently, I know, was primarily associated with Rush rule set. And then Corey Stupp, whose name I'm not familiar with, but I did see him listed on This Week in Pinball as being as part of the software team on this title. Zombie Yeti, or I should say the pseudonym Zombie Yeti, but often known as well as by his real name, Jeremy Packer, did the art package on this, as he's been doing lately with a lot of Stern games, most recently Foo Fighters. And Jerry Thompson, who's often done sound for Stern games lately, is on sound for this game. This is a cornerstone, so it is the Pro Premium LE model. There are 1,000 LE units. Pricing remains identical to the Foo Fighters release, so they have not done a price increase since earlier this year. That means it's $7,000 for a Pro, $9,700 for a Premium, and $13,000 for a limited edition model. So those are the basics out of the way. I think there are two main things to discuss here. One, of course, which I think we'll go ahead and open with, is the layout. I need to disclose, I have not watched gameplay footage. There was gameplay shot, I believe, at Comic-Con, streamed on Dead Flip. So that is available. I don't have a link in the show notes to it because I have not played it myself. However, I have gone over the images extensively. So I think starting with the layout would make a lot of sense. And before us sort of giving our thoughts on that, I think I should probably go ahead and quickly do a breakdown on the Pro versus the Premium LE, because as is the case, as Tony is very familiar, there are a lot of mechanical sacrifices for the Pro model to get the price down versus what we see on the Premium LE. So the main thing I think to note on what all the models have is they have this sort of stacking lock system, which seems to be a newer concept where the ramps feed to the inlane. So I think the way it works is like balls are being held, and then it's designed so that it'll feel like there's a faster return, because when you shoot a ball up on a ramp, it can release another ball and then lock the ball that you've shot. So it keeps things going a little bit quicker than maybe we're often used to. So again, we've seen locks like that before, but not usually like prominent in the sense that they're like being used all the time. And then the toy wise, besides that, there's just the captive ball very target, where I think his name's Carnage, the red Venom,
right,
is kind of towards the left near the leftmost ramp. So that's got a captive ball in front of it, and then it seems like the Carnage toy is like on a very target that's supposed to get knocked back further and further. And then there's like a bell tower toy that it's a stand up, but I guess there's supposed to be like a bell sound that happens with it or something along those lines. So that's basically it that stood out to me in terms of like toy / features on the Pro model. And then if we move up to the Premium LE model, the main thing to note is there's this 3-position 180 ramp that's over on the right. So it's like if it's all the way down, it functions as a 180 ramp, which we've been seeing a lot lately out of Stern Pinball, at least in my opinion. And then it can raise up and it starts to give you access to like another shot, or raise up again, and then that changes the shot a third time. So that sort of thing is in place. There's also this sort of, it's called the doppelganger. It's swinging. It swings out from the right side, and then there are 3 hanging targets that are underneath it. And the art's actually a little bit different in that section on the Premium LE, because they've got some inserts and stuff associated with the doppelganger targets that don't exist on the Pro model. So those are the main toy differences that I've seen. So I want to get into rules, but I want to stop talking now for a little bit. So before starting with layout, we should probably go ahead and talk about art. So other than the subtle difference on the right-hand side, I think the playfield art is identical for all 3 models. So I won't really ask about that, but I was kind of curious, Tony, like which art package do you like the best? And does it vary? Like, do you have a difference on Translite plus cab sides, or is it like the one entire package just wins you over more?
Well, I'm not a huge Venom person. It's not my wheelhouse of interest. It never has been. But the art is good. I do like how it looks. I'm going to go and be completely acceptable here and say that overall, I think the tough call, but honestly, I think I like the Translite best on the Pro. I think the Pro has the better Translite, and the Premium has the better side art. I mean, just overall, I don't need the giant Venom that's on the side of the LE and the Pro to let me know what it is. You can tell that pretty much just by seeing it. I think the Premium has the better cabinet art, but I really do like the Translite on the Pro. But all in all of the art's good. The playfield art is good. There's definitely some stuff in here that I like. Like I said, it's one of those things. It doesn't really, this game doesn't theme wise touch me in any way, shape, or form, because Venom has never been what I would call a character that I care about. It's always felt very aimed at a certain type of person who I'm not. That's a nice way to say it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm not particularly enamored with the theme itself. I know some people are large Venom fans, but I think it's safe to say Venom's not exactly an A tier character in the Marvel universe.
No, and the fact that Venom is so tightly tied to Spider-Man, and I know it's known from the sheer amount of hate mail I've gotten about it, but I don't really care about Spider-Man either. Mm-hmm. I know he's like the most popular Marvel character.
Popular, but I just continue to hate him.
I didn't say I hate him. I just don't care
to try and destroy him.
I watched the movies sometimes. I mean, I watched some of the new ones.
You haven't even seen all of them.
I haven't. I did see some of the new ones.
That's how much your hate is.
I saw the first of the new ones.
Sure.
Yeah.
Probably because it had other Marvel characters in it. It's probably the only reason you saw it.
No, I saw it because it finally was on Disney Plus, so I could watch it for free.
That's a good enough reason. I do agree with you that I would probably say the composition of the Pro Translite is my favorite, though it's a close thing. The premiums and LEs, incidentally, for those that haven't looked, they have the same Translite. I like them both. They're fine. I actually prefer the LE cabinet package. I like the color dichotomy of the red, I guess, Carnage side, and then the kind of left side, which is I like the use of the blues for the Spawn, because I think blacks really wouldn't work. In terms of like side packages, the Pro is my least favorite cabinet. Purple and Pinball I do not generally care for, and I don't like the use of that purple coloration basically at all. And then the the premium side package, I imagine I could see a lot of people liking that because there's a lot of like red and orange is very Bourne, like the Bourne Identity poster style of that era. And I think it kind of plays into, if I were to stereotype the Zombie Yeti Stern art package look, it's like lots of that, lots of red, orange, yellow color scheme, in the Marvel styling. Again, it's all well drawn. The playfield, I think that playfield is probably going to be really polarizing. I get what Jeremy did, and like from a logic perspective, from a player perspective, I like this. You can see when you look at the playfield shots that he's very much got like a character theme for each of the shots. But because he's done that, it feels very fragmented. So I think some people that are looking at it, wanting a cohesive art package, are probably going to hate like that back half of the playfield, because the colors change all of a sudden because they're all representing something. But again, this is pinball. It's not a wall hanging.
Right. It almost looks like those comic book pages where they do like the giant reaction shot where each person has their own individual picture as they react to something they're all seeing. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the feeling the back half gives it, where every person's like, oh no.
Yeah. I mean, this might be a little challenging. I was going to say, where would you rank it? Where would you rank his art on this game versus everything else that he's done? Because again, I don't know. I've heard obviously it's so subjective. I think this is in his bottom half. All of his stuff being good, though. I have to, again,
that's the thing.
So I don't want it to just come across as toxic, because he's basically the best artist in all of pinball ever, honestly.
Right.
But like my top 3 games, I had this discussion with Zach Minnie on the Pinball Show. It's like, for me, my top 3 Zombie Yeti packages are basically like all of the Ghostbuster stuff is my number 1 still. It's like the one thing that doesn't look like all the other stuff. The premium package for Iron Maiden is my number 2. The desert one, the Egypt stuff, I just think it looks really cool. And then for number 3, that one gets a little bit tougher for me, but I would say I've generally leaned towards something like Turtles. I'd probably be my 3rd. And this is kind of like, I maybe put it a little above Godzilla, but Godzilla was way down because I didn't like his decision to do the poster style with the Godzilla. Like, I wanted Godzilla to look a little less saturated and more washed out and stuff, and instead it felt like if Marvel did Godzilla. Which it's not ugly, but it's just not the style that I would have. Whereas I like the style on this a bit more, but because of the need to serve the layout, which I think is the right decision. I also think overall as an art package, I'm really thinking playfield in particular just isn't as attractive as some of those greats.
Right. And like you said, with Jeremy Packer, that's a lot like saying, it's like, just because it's not as good as some of his other stuff doesn't mean that it's not, way above 90% of what we see in pinball.
Oh yeah, no, it's all good.
It's just trying like having a discussion about like your favorite song from an artist or deciding which one of Frank Lloyd Wright's houses is the worst.
Yes. The thing for me is I've heard some people, not necessarily a lot, but some who have argued that he just keeps getting better and better. And I think maybe because I'm not trained at all in art, like when I look at the progression of his games, I don't see it in those terms. Like I don't know what you could point to on this versus back to Turtles and tell me like what was the improvement? Like where did it get better?
Right. I think it's just very much one of those things where it depends upon the theme, and sometimes things just click better with different people. But then again, I mean, there are going to be people who think that this is his best ever, and there's going to be people who think it's his worst ever, and anywhere in between. It's just art is so subjective.
Sure. So where's your rank?
Right in the middle of the pack.
Okay. Layout. Let's move to that.
Okay.
So this isn't Jeremy's fault. This is Brian Eddy's fault. What do you think of this?
I think that there are an incredibly large number of shots that look pretty close together.
Type of findable? Question mark.
That's going to be the question. There's some things I like. I see that once again we have one of those horseshoes that have gotten super popular. Let me rephrase. That has gotten super common as of late. Those kind of like tight little horseshoes.
I'm trying to think when I first saw. I think the first time I really noticed it was Stern Star Wars,
right? But they seem to be everywhere all of a sudden, and they I can understand why. They give fast feedback. They're very interesting in a lot of ways, but sometimes I feel like maybe it's time to back off a little.
But I mean, he didn't put 4 in like Scooby.
That's true. That definitely helps.
Rut-row. That'd be a rut-row.
I do like the Captain of Ball Very Target. I like Very Targets. And Very Targets are something that you don't really see a whole lot of anymore. Big fan of that. I'm really gonna be interested in the premium NLE. I want to see how that 3-position 180 degree.
And that's something I think that we can touch on in the rules, because I agree the premium LE, especially with what they've described as the plan with the rules, is very interesting. I think it's very innovative what they're trying to accomplish. I don't know how well that integrates with the Pro. Obviously, there needs to be a Pro, and so and maybe the Pro grows on me because it will end up playing so fast. The thing is that stood out to me when I first saw these images, and it's true for both versions, but of course, the questions that I have or concerns that I have are more for the Pro because they don't have those changing shots. I know so many people have longed for Brian Eddy to, basically they want Shadow 2.0. They want to see that. And when he came back to Pinball, to Stern, he did Stranger Things, which people looked at, and it's kind of like, well, the feeds were different. Very Attack from Mars sort of structure, right? And then Mandalorian, I thought, was pretty different. Upper playfield, different than, it didn't feel like Shadow, but it also wasn't his medieval attack fan approach. This, I think, is the fanniest fan layout that I have ever seen. Like I could probably put this in my room to keep the air circulating. Even though the theme doesn't do anything for me, I may need to get this game to just have it for air circulation because I've never seen such a fan in my entire life.
It is so. I mean, how many shots are we looking at here?
Well, I mean, looking at the Pro model, we start from left orbit. There's left orbit, leftmost ramp. That's 2. Very target would be 3. Center ramp would be 4. Bell teller 5. Entry to the horseshoe 6. the, I guess, sort of scoop shot 7, other entrance to the horseshoe 8, and far right orbit 9.
That's nuts. That's crazy.
So, and obviously they've got some stuff going on with the feeds. So, because there's like a little very target a VUC in the back that'll fire up to that same habitrail that is fed by the center ramp and things like that. But yeah, so no, he's put in a lot there, and I don't know if they're too tight or not. Probably not would be initial thought. When we see this, it looks like
intimidating.
Like they're going to be too tight,
scary tight.
Yeah. The thing is, normally, like if we think back to Brian Eddy's other fan layouts, Stranger Things, Attack from Mars, and Medieval Madness, there's usually like a big wide toy, like the bank on Attack with a saucer, or the castle, or the Demogorgon. He didn't put that in here. The toy, the very target is the same size as all the other shots.
Right.
In fact, it's actually tighter than the ramps. So
yeah, because it's like he took that where that giant toy normally is right in the middle and just went, you know what? I can just fit like 4 more shots in that same spot.
So the toys, quote unquote, like when we're looking just at the Pro specifically, are a very target shot, which is the width of a ball.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the width of a ball, the bell tower, which is a single stand-up. So those are very small footprint toys, very small. He's kept them. Those 2 are the tightest shots that I see. Everything else is a little bit wider, but not that wide. Nothing huge. Not like the banana ramp on Elwyn's Avengers, for example.
Right.
So anyway, I think with the whole, if I understand the principle right, the whole staged like ball lock system that you can kind of see the labeling on the habitrails on the left and the right, that I could see where that might help the speed of the returns. So you're not waiting for the your one ball to go around and do that and come back. So that would help with the speed, because normally when I look at a fan layout, and people love to shoot fans, so this could be quite successful. It's just, it also, when I see fans, normally I think they're really, really safe layouts that tend to play a long time. Now, maybe these shots are close enough together that that's not going to be an issue with this, but that's where my concern comes in is well, twofold. One is it going to be too safe, too long of a player? And then I guess if I was, an owner of Stern, which I am not, it would be, are a lot of pinball collectors going to sit this one out because they look at this layout and they go, no, I've owned so many games with this layout. I don't want it. And I will, we can elaborate on that a little bit more. But you mentioned the curiosity about like the 3 shot, 3 changing shot thing on the right-hand side in particular. So I do want to go ahead and move us to the rules real quick. And then again, there's a lot more write-up detail over on This Week in Pinball, which was had pulled some information together from the Stern Insider Pinball podcast. And so here's the thing. All right. So the game is going to have you choose a host that you choose your house, or choose your turtle, or in this case it's going to be choose your symbiote host at the start of the game. And the way it works actually is there are adjustments depending on which symbiote character host you choose in terms of what the physical layout of the playfield will be. So if you choose and you can change them between balls. Mm-hmm. So when you make certain changes, basically because of the way that stuff can shift around, your play field that you get to play on is different. That's what that's accommodating, is you get different shots depending which character you've chosen. So that's the uniqueness that I feel is pretty much lost on the Pro, it seems, but could be very interesting on the Premium LE. Coupled with that, Again, with Dwight being lead on this, I understand, like, he's really been leaning a lot into more of these RPG rules. That sort of element, he's got some stuff here that's kind of roguelike, though, with that, changing environment kind of feels a little bit roguelike to me. Also, with like the turtles, I never owned a turtles, but one of the things you could do with Insider Connected is, with the settings, this could be disabled for tournaments and stuff, but you could set it so like your turtle training, I think, like the progress could be held over. Again, kind of a roguelike element where you have pieces that let you get better over time. This is doing an XP system where as you develop your character, like the number of shots you need to clear something goes down because you've gotten stronger. So they make it's approaching it in a way that it should be getting easier and easier as you level up over time to beat the game. And when you beat that final boss, Null, I guess it's its name, is you get to unlock new characters that aren't in the default set. Like you get like Hulk, like Venom Hulk or whatever they call him, and Wolverine and Captain America are unlocked as you win the game. And then you have a new character to level up and repeat the experience. So all of these things, coupled with, of course, the characters have their own unique bonuses and stuff, that level up aspect, I think, is really, really interesting. So, because it's leaning into Insider Connected and taking pinball in a way that I think makes a lot of sense with the home environment. It's like, how do we increase longevity? What's the big frustration with, like, I've owned Star Trek for God, who knows how many years now at this point. I'm never going to get to 5-year mission. I'm never going to become a good enough pinball player to do that. I'm not physically capable of it. So eventually, there's no point. I'm not going to own the game until I get 5-year mission because I'm not good enough to get 5-year mission. But if you want to show someone progress, how do roguelikes do it? They let you get elements that let you improve. So even though you do get better at the game over time, you never become, most people don't become speedrunners at Hades or Binding of Isaac. It's the leveling and the carryover and the stuff that you have at your disposal that allows you to win it eventually. And then that lets you do new things with it. So there's replayability. So they're taking video game replayability, and Brian Eddy's incorporated some aspects of the layout to also do some adjustment to give you a little bit different experience with that otherwise very vanilla looking layout. I think that's really interesting. What are your thoughts?
I also think that that's a really cool concept that could go either very well or very terribly. But I'm super interested. There are a lot of things in this game. I know you haven't really touched on it yet, but the fact that it has like co-op and team play, I just really want to play this game. I would like to play. I loved playing co-op on TNA. It was great. The fact that this has a built-in speed run type setup, even though I'll never successfully complete any of it, I know that there's no way that I'm going to be a good enough player to do that. But it just as a concept. And I think a lot of this, like you said, is stuff that is utilizing powers given to them through in the Insider Connected setup. But it has tickled all of my really interested want to try it boxes, not just for the game itself and the shots and everything, but because of all of the things that they're trying that are different and new and interesting.
Yeah, it's to me, it's a culmination of everything that I feel, rightly or wrongly, that Dwight Sullivan has seemed to have been working towards over the last few years at Stern Pinball. Again, like you mentioned, co-op play. That's something that seems to end up in all of his code packages. Like Turtles had the co-op play, and I thought there was another game that he worked on that also had co-op play. And of course, here it is again. And as you know, like speed running, I mean, that's such a video game thing. It's all of these pieces. He's brought back the flamethrower from Mandalorian and the concept, which I guess the symbiotes are afraid of fire, is kind of how that thematically integrates, but it gives an ability to, like a strategic weapon, that smart bomb from video games, sort of how I always thought of the flamethrower, to go ahead and accomplish something. So this one is available that you can do something and like fire that off at certain times. And it's just that it's got so many things, and I agree with you. It's an experiment. Is this going to work or not? It's such a question mark, in the sense that, like, conceptually, I think with Insider Connected able to save the progress, all the pieces are there that this should be able to work. The thing that I don't know about is, do pinball collectors want to go down this route or not? I think it makes a lot of sense from a homeowner perspective, but a lot of these things, like if Venom ends up at the 403 Club, are we going to, like, if we sign in, are we going to actually, is it going to remember our progress? Or how are they going to, obviously you can't allow that in the tournaments. Right. So
there's probably, I'm sure there is
a tournament. There is a tournament mode.
Well, just even beyond the tournament mode, I'm sure there's another setting mode that basically would make it as a choice.
But if it's like, because I don't want to activate a special mode or teach people how to do that when we say start a tournament, because it's not like how it used to be in the old days at Pizza West, where the operator would be there and he would switch all the games to tournament mode for our tournament. Like 403, normally we just walk up and play them and they're on the regular mode. So if it's always off to avoid that issue, for example, which would make sense from a tournament perspective, I would never get the experience of like, why should I fall in love with this game if I can never, even if I log in, if I don't get to progress on location, then I'm never going to, like, how would I know that I want this game? It's the software that would make me want this game. And how would I know that unless I can have my, like, I want to, if I don't want to buy it, I want to go and play it and I want to have my progress carry. That's what I want. I want that portable profile to finally say, hey, you've put in $50 into this game. We won Alien, Tony. We spent $20 each and we won Alien. If I spend $20 on Venom, I should be able to beat Null with a character and get something and get to continue on. And that's so I see it more in the homeowner environment. I don't know if the location players are going to get enough of a taste of it or not to get that. So it's probably going to come down to a lot of people doing their own investigation and study. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out to you why I'm bringing all of that up, other than, of course, that's interesting discussion. We're talking about Venom. Venom sales. From the information I have gleaned from seeing people, discussions, talk with other collectors, the sales on this game are soft currently. Like, maybe as of this recording, that's not the case anymore. However, LEs were still readily available after the game revealed.
Interesting.
So some of that might be what you pointed out, like Venom's not exactly the strongest Marvel character to go with. Some of that could be we're not in the pandemic anymore, and so this whole, like, if you want to buy a new in-box pinball game, it's super easy now. You might not be able to go and buy your new in-box Godzilla Premium or Foo Fighters Premium, but you know, if you want a Mandalorian or you want a Rush or you want to go and get Scooby, well, Scooby's not a good example because they sold all of those out. Or you want to go get a Godfather or Toy Story 4, easily, readily available. Plenty of games, even games that aren't made anymore, like Zeppelins, easy.
Right.
Granted, that was always easy to get, but my point being is, it's not like how it was where people were just buying up everything, so all the values were going up. Now games are having to compete with each other, and a lot of stuff, there's just product now. So there's all of that into play. And again, where my concerns are, like when people look at a photo of the layout and all they see is a fan, a lot of collectors already have a fan game, at least one in their collection already.
Be hard not to.
I mean, you know, it's like, well, I have an Attack from Mars remake. Well, you've got a fan. How many more do you want? You got Lord of the Rings. You got a fan. How many more do you want? You got a Terminator 2. You got a fan. How many more do you want? Yeah, maybe 3. Maybe 3. Why not both? So those are the questions for it. But it's the software side of it and whether they go down this path moving forward that I'm curious about. I really like the idea of the software, though, just on paper. So I hope that even if Venom ends up not doing that well, like I heard, at least like compared to at launch, it's not even where Bond was. So, I mean, Bond's a stronger license.
Right.
Bond was just plagued with a lot of issues, but I just hope that they don't end up going, well, Venom didn't do what we had hoped it would do, so we're going to blame the software. They need to identify if the software is an issue, but I think this idea for rules makes a lot of sense given the homeowners needing something that, finding a way to give longevity to a game and still be achievable by most players. Because I think for a lot of people that's the issue is we're never going to. I'm not going to get to like the end of Godzilla. I'm not good enough. But something
you need to
like
believe
this,
in yourself, Dennis.
But something like this is
believe in yourself. The way the way the Mothra twins believe in you.
Delude themselves into thinking that they can like. And you know what? I'm going to go as a side tangent here. I'm kind of done. Unless let me get if you have any other thoughts on Venom.
No, I agree with you. I think the big thing is it'll depend on if the sales pick up after people get a chance to play it. It could be, there's been plenty of games in the past that were, light to begin with. They were soft to begin with. And once people played them, or once rules got in place, that they really took off and became a lot more than what they started as. We'll just have to see if this is one of those.
You're absolutely right. The only thing is, at least when it comes to Stern, we don't usually see that softness on LE sales.
Typically not.
So,
and it was say, I mean, Stern has had a pretty, I mean, Foo launched, and Foo was amazing from ball one.
Sure. But there are a lot of arguments that can be made for why was Foo so successful. You could say, well, there's a lot of fans of the band, or a lot of people wanted to try out Jack Danger's first design, or Foo is a very easy layout. It's quite forgiving. We had very long ball times at TPF, and we hadn't played the game before. That's a sign that the layout's pretty forgiving, which is part of the reason why Godzilla did so well. It's not Elwyn's most brutal layout. So those things are in its favor. And once people try Venom, as you point out, with the fan and stuff, that should be approachable. Even the shots are relatively tight. That should be relatively approachable. So it could have legs on it. I don't think it's a bad thing that the LEs didn't instantly sell out day one. Actually, I think that's healthy, because now, and maybe that means Stern needs to start thinking that they need to go back to the old days where not every run was 1,000 LEs. Maybe actually make them limited. So whatever. Nobody
right. does that in pinball anymore.
We see the same thing in wristwatches and probably many other hobbies.
You don't think 12,000 is a limited run?
I don't. But then there was a wristwatch. I won't go into the details because I know the listeners don't care. But Seiko did a launch of some some vintage revive, and they did over 15,000. And I was like, they're not going to sell out. And then all I've had are a bunch of comments going, "Oh, they're going to sell out, you dumb guy." I'm like, okay, well, maybe I was wrong on because it's like Seiko's most famous diver. I don't know. That's like 15,000 is a stupid amount to why limit it at all? I still don't know why that was. I mean, no one, it was like they should limit it. They're just like, no, it'll sell out. I'm like, okay.
A limited edition of 2 billion.
So before I move on but moving on from Venom, what I was going to say about when you brought up the thing, about the, if I only try, if I only believe in the power of Mothra or whatever. I'm going to blame. Let me throw a little bit of blame. We're pretty sympathetic. We on competitive pinball. We both. I don't do it as much as I used to, but we like to go and play in tournaments and stuff. It's fun. The competitive aspect's fun. I think it's an important part of pinball. I blame competitive people, though, especially high level competitive people, for totally either they don't understand their own skill, or they're humble bragging. I'm not sure, or they think how they got there is different than how they really did, but they definitely overstate the ability for people to become great pinball players. I've played pinball for years. No, I do not play pinball every single day, but I get so there's some of them where they make it sound like, and maybe they actually believe it, but I can't believe they're that naive, where they're like, if you just practice a little bit more, you could be a top 100 player. No, I cannot. I do not. Look, some of you are, not only because you play more, and you do play more. So I get where maybe they start thinking that, where they're like, well, if I'm someone and I put in 10 hours a week on playing pinball, and Dennis puts in 10 minutes a week playing pinball, of course I'm better than him. Yeah, that's a fair point. But if I put in 10 hours a week, I'm not going to become you. That doesn't just automatically happen. Some people have to work way harder at something to become good at it, and they will never become great at it.
Yeah.
I am a big believer in, if you practice something enough, you can become competent at it. But there are people at the top for a reason, and some of it's just going to be natural ability and stuff. And some of it has, now I do know that part of the reason maybe they think that is we see a lot in tournaments and stuff, like big tournaments now, a lot of younger players are winning a lot. That's just because they got better reflexes, and pinball was dominated by people. I think this bugs some of them. Pinball was dominated for so long by like middle-aged people that now that younger people are actually investing a little bit of their time in it, their natural dexterity advantage, they've all rolled high dex. So they're now doing what they've done in video games for years, crushing people who are older, who just don't have the reaction time that they used to. And your rules knowledge isn't going to be strong enough to, in all instances, to outplay someone who's just got a better physical skill set.
Yeah.
And I'm 44. I'm so far past my peak on physical ability. I could never practice my way up to beating a teenager who wants to put in far less time, but will just have the reaction ability to accomplish what they need to accomplish. So quit telling everyone that if they just practice more, they're going to become like this great player. It's nonsense. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I know that, pinball play is really unprofessional. I don't mean that like in a disrespectful way. I mean it like there's no like, and this has come up. I think Ron Hallett had a great rant about this on Slam Tilt podcast. But he went on about how pinball is not a sport, and he's a big competitive player. But like, there's all this discussion about should we, and people are torn on this. Like, is it okay to wear headlamps? Is it okay to wear headphones? I think he was bringing up headphones. And he's like, they don't, in most like basketball players don't get to go out there with their noise canceling headphones to not hear the crowd jeer. So who do you think you are? That wasn't his exact example, but that's the one I'm going to use. One I brought up with before, which really bothered someone because they needed it for, and I get it because they needed it for their, for a diagnosis, but things that improve focus and clarity, like ADD drugs.
Oh yeah.
That would, if this was a legitimized sport, that would be banned.
Oh man, drug testing.
Yeah, can you imagine
mandatory drug testing
but
for all the big
and
tournaments?
I don't even just mean like the prescription stuff. I mean, there's all these people who go, well, if you have 2 beers, that's when you're in the right zone. No, that your alcohol's gone. You want this to be a real sport? You don't get to. No one else goes around. This isn't the Babe Ruth era. They don't get to go around just slamming back brewskis to go play. Your crutches go away if this was legitimized. So, and there are a shocking level of crutches in pinball, in my view.
Yeah.
So people also get away with hiding behind a lot of cheats, basically. It's all fair. It's just, but in a legitimized world of sport, these would be seen as cheats.
Yeah. 2 beers, some ADHD drugs,
sure.
Your headlamp and your noise canceling headphones. Mm-hmm. Get everything dialed in real good there.
Your sunglasses because the flashes are too bright. Your headlamp because the room lighting's too low. And then then there's of course the discussion about all of that, the non-standardized lighting and stuff. Like, why is it okay for a venue to play with the lights off? How am I supposed to see?
Right. I got to have my fingerless gloves, so I've got the feel in the fingertips.
You got to wear that basketball. You got to wear that sleeve thing.
Oh yeah, the big sleeve to
wear the sleeve thing.
Protect my elbow so I don't get the right. And when there has to be a regulation amount of clearance between the machines, so that when the guy next to you gets mad and shakes the machine side to side,
I've had people side slam the game into my hand I don't get a free ball.
Yeah, it happened to me last week at tournament.
I hope your hand's okay.
I only lost 2 fingers. That's all right.
Anyway, that was it. That was my little rant, guys. Not everyone can be a winner. That's my point, and that's okay. Quit telling everyone that they can. It's not healthy.
Just do the best you can.
It's not healthy. It's like telling everyone that they can be an astronaut.
Just believe in yourself.
They can't. Yes, believe in yourself, but be realistic too.
And if you can't believe in yourself, believe in the me that believes in you.
I just think that if you overly like set those high expectations, and some people get really disappointed when they don't. I can't even remember how long it was until I finally beat a person at a tournament. It took a few tries.
Oh yeah.
It's like whatever. Just have a bit more realistic expectations. I don't have a rumor corner. There have been so many rumors flying around lately. It's gotten ridiculous. If you all want to fill up on rumor hot dogs, I ain't going to give you prime rib. And in a way, I think sometimes people have lost sight of why rumor corner exists and what it's kind of poking fun at. And it almost feels like the hobby is just sort of tripled down on that. And that's fine with me because it saves me a whole segment that I have to come up with. So video games, Tony, let's just move into it.
We'll talk about the big thing in video games. The thing we've been talking about for a year that is finally coasting into the station. The Microsoft Activision Blizzard King merger is looking to be extremely likely at this point.
Wow, it just feels like 2 episodes ago that everything seemed really dire.
Everything was pretty dire 2 episodes ago, but immediately after our last episode dropped, because that's how it always works, the judge denied the FTC their request to block the merger. The FTC immediately appealed, to surprise of nobody, and was immediately had their appeal denied. Then the FTC filed for a temporary injunction to pause things while they continue to do a deeper look. That injunction was immediately denied by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So the FTC is reportedly closing their internal case and letting everything go through as per their standing rules.
Poor FTC.
They tried so hard to block everything.
I guess so. I mean, I guess they were like, they saw the CMA and they were like, we want to say hold my beer, but instead
the judge was like, nah.
No, this is America.
This is America. Yeah, no, and with the overturn, the CMA has come back to the table talking to Microsoft about the deal. They do still have the same standing concerns, and they're looking for some more concessions. Microsoft has submitted a detailed and complex proposal, and they're going to the CMA is supposed to make a decision by August 29th, based upon the new proposal that was turned in. At the same time, because the final seal date on this was July 18th, Microsoft and Activision talked and put an extension requested an extension for their time, because otherwise basically Microsoft was going to have to pay some fees and just terminate.
Yeah, I saw they like did a multi-tier thing with new deadlines and new higher payout amounts if they cross those thresholds and a deal isn't ultimately reached.
Right.
But I assume they're feeling pretty good at this stage.
I think so, because they were already putting together a plan that if everything went ahead everywhere but the UK, they were looking at plans for ways to get around the UK, even if it was so far as just not selling Activision Blizzard stuff inside the UK. So we'll see how that goes. Interestingly, Gundam Evolution, the free-to-play hero shooter, is shutting down at the end of November. It's not even been open for a year.
Yeah, I saw that. I knew one person who played it, and I mentioned it, and they said, "I'm not surprised."
Yeah, no, it's trash. I played it for like
it's trash. I didn't hear them say that, but
no, I said that.
I know. That's why I was just a little shocked.
I was like, I'll give this game a try, and I downloaded it and I played it for less than a week, and I'm like, man, this game is it's garbage. It was just a very poorly put together hero shooter with a thin veneer of Gundam on top. It was not satisfying to play in any way, shape, or form. So like that, I'm not surprised it's going away. That was a shot on goal that completely failed to hit. In more interesting Blizzard news, Blizzard is going to make Overwatch 2 available on Steam. This is the first time they've ever put one of their Battle.net games out on another storefront. So you'll still need to tie your Steam account to your Battle.net account, but it is possible to play on Steam. It'll have Steam achievements, your Steam friend list integration. And they are saying that they're planning on bringing more games to Steam in the future, though no word on when or what games would be brought to Steam.
Yeah, now the Overwatch subreddits were abuzz with this as signs that the game is dying, and so Blizzard was desperate for more player base, and so they've turned to Steam. However, I think that was maybe, I don't know if that's just driven by wishful thinking from people who are upset or what. I did hear, he goes by the handle Monte Cristo. He used to do the Overwatch League, you might remember. I believe he's tied with Valorant now, but he actually mentioned that he has purportedly he has insider sources, and Overwatch 2's player base is basically the same as Valorant, and the assumption is that it's probably a completely different decision, not based off of the subscriber count. I've heard some think that this is just related to because Microsoft is acquiring, that maybe they're knowing that they are wanting to expand to the ease of being able to sell the games or get people into the games.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I don't know if it ties at all to the Microsoft part or not. It just makes sense to be on Steam if you can.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people who use Steam, and a lot of people really like Steam. I mean, considering I was somebody who hated Steam originally, I have definitely come aboard the Steam train, and I'm a big fan of Steam. See, that just brings the question to me. As somebody who has Battle.net and plays games on Battle.net, can I transfer all my stuff and be able to play through the Steam if I wanted to?
I'd assume with the integration you could.
That's my assumption as well. To be fair, I'd only want to do it for achievements, but because I don't see any other reason to do it. But that's interesting. And for you, Dennis, we've talked so many times about how much joy you would get from Game Pass.
Yes.
And you're always like, no, Game Pass is expensive. I'll just get games with gold, and I'll just get games for birthdays and Christmas and stuff I buy on sale that's old. And Xbox has hurt you. And Xbox is like, screw that guy. So your Xbox Live games with gold is going away. Yeah. It is being replaced by a new thing that they are calling Game Pass Core.
Hope it doesn't stop spinning.
Hopefully not, because if we do, we'll have to make a really hilarious, fun movie about it. But Game Pass Core is going to be $10 a month or $60 a year. Which I believe is the same price as Gold.
It's Gold's price. Yeah.
It's Gold's price. That will include your ability to do online gaming and a curated collection of 25 games that they plan on growing over time. At launch, which will be September 14th, Live goes down on 1st, and then on the 14th of September, this comes up. The initial slate of games includes Among Us, Descenders, Dishonored 2, Doom Eternal, Fable Anniversary, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Forza Horizon 4, Gears 5, Grounded, Halo 5, Guardians, Halo Wars 2, Hellblades, whatever sacrifice, Suna's sacrifice, Human Fall Flat, Inside, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, Psychonauts 2, State of Decay 2, and The Elder Scrolls Online, Tamriel Unlimited. So, come the 14th of September, you got a lot of new games you can try, Dennis.
That's true, and a lot of those are pretty big games.
Yeah, I would say so. Everybody knows Human Fall Flat is just the greatest.
Yes, that was the exact one I was thinking
That and Among
of.
Us, those are the two big games on that list. So, the Core is basically going to be a new version of Game Pass that slides into the overall collection, just slightly under the cost of console, which is $11 a month. The big difference is console has hundreds of high quality games, and it's the one where you'll get the day one games, where Core gives you just the certain curated games. They also have PC, which for $10 a month, which is the one I had, which gives you day one games and hundreds of high quality games, and an EA Play membership. I let mine shut off because I just wasn't using it enough to be worth $10 a month, because I was playing like one or two games maybe for a month or two. And then Ultimate, which gives you console and PC and cloud gaming, plus all sorts of other perks, is $17 a month. I think this is pretty obviously targeted at doing Core, being designed to make people want to go up to console,
right?
Because it's an extra dollar,
yeah,
and you get a lot more games, and you get the lots of the day one games.
I will be considering it once the conversion happens to see if they're actually just going to charge. Like, do I get a price break if I buy a year's worth of console?
Right,
like I do on Core.
Yeah, because and like at the Xbox Showcase this year, 90% of the games they talked about at the Xbox Showcase is a day one Game Pass launch.
Yes, it is.
So
I'll tell you, I it's factored in so much that when I mentioned at the start in the intro about like buying Resident Evil 3 and Phoenix Wright, all the games I bought are not on Game Pass. I made sure of it.
Oh, that's big brain.
That's
big brain moments.
I might not be a great pinball player, but I do still know how to think a little bit.
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting change to see going forward, especially with. I have a feeling that the whole point that they said that specifically that the collection of 25 games will grow over time is going to be directly related to the completion of the Activision merger, because I'm sure they have a small list of Activision Blizzard games that they want to push onto that curated collection as soon as that merger is completed. Not to mention for the console version and all the day one launches that they'll be doing. So I think Xbox and Microsoft have set themselves up to be in a pretty decent place going forward. Because, I mean, again, the only reason I've not gone back into the PC Game Pass is 100% because I'm playing 2 games, and that's about all I've been playing for a year now. So I don't see a reason to do more because those are the games that have been eating my time. So, but we'll see going forward.
Okay.
That's what I got.
All right. Well, folks, you can reach out to us, eclecticgamerspodcast@gmail.com, facebook.com/eclecticgamerspodcast. We're on Patreon at patreon.com/eclectic_gamers. So if you want to support the channel, we have 3 tiers as low as $1 a month for that.
We're on Twitch and Instagram as eclectic_gamers.
And we'll be back in a couple weeks. And we'll see what new game news we have, what new pinball shenanigans have happened, and we'll give you all the latest. And will Rumor Corner be back? No idea. We'll have to see if the hot dogs cool down.
We'll have to see how many random announcements happen in the next 24 hours because that's how our luck runs.
Yes. But until then, my name is Dennis.
And I've been Tony.
Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.